Hi and welcome to this week's Life Lessons video. It's great to be back with you all. Do you struggle with standing up for yourself and speaking your truth in your relationships or at work? Do you hate confrontation or conflict of any kind and try to avoid these type of situations at all costs? We're here to explain what really stops you from speaking up and speaking out, and how you can be more authentic and assertive in any situation. Welcome to our wu-wei Wisdom Life Lessons series. In each episode, we answer your questions, reveal the powerful life lesson, and offer you lots of practical tips and advice to help you live in balance, harmony, and flow. Okay, David, so the question we've had in on this topic is, I'm an emotional doormat. I can't stand up for myself at work or in my relationships, and I hate being like this. I can't cope with confrontation or conflict of any kind. Just thinking about it gives me bad anxiety, and I want to run away from the situation. I've tried to be assertive in the past, and I've got upset and embarrassed, and people still don't listen. So I end up feeling worse. Can you help?
I love these life lesson questions. The first sentence, we could do the whole video on the first sentence. Read that first sentence again.
I'm an emotional doormat.
I'm an emotional doormat. There's a belief. And remember the golden thread, which we'll do again in a minute. But if you believe you are an emotional doormat, guess what happens? People walk on you and wipe their feet all over you. You're allowing them to, because you have this belief. And this is why this is a spiritual teaching. Why would you tell yourself something like that? When you tell yourself something like that, you are transmitting it to the world, to people, to family, to colleagues, to bosses. You're saying, hey, come and wipe your feet on me. And this is what they'll do. You can't blame them for doing what you're asking them to do. This is why your beliefs are so vitally important. This is the change you'll make. You won't make the change by wafting around and expanding on and making, as you said last time, a feature film of it. The first sentence tells you the problem. That's what you've got to get down to, that core belief. I am an emotional doormat. Stop it. You are not an emotional doormat. You are a divine, wonderful, or amazing, awesome spiritual being. How dare you? How dare you call yourself a doormat? This is really bad. You wouldn't say that to your physical child. I can get on my soapbox now and really tell you, stop it. This is nonsense. You have to stop it.
Okay, David. Well, that's all well and good to say, but I do want to change. I appreciate that calling myself or giving myself labels like that, negative labels, is not going to help the situation, right? I'll give you an example. I'm thinking of a situation at work where something's happening with one individual at work and they are just disrespecting me. It's making me so angry, and giving me lots of red light feelings. I really, really, really want to stand up for myself. But the thought of speaking up and speaking to this person about it and saying to them, you know, can you stop speaking to me like that? It just turns me to jelly. It's like, I can rehearse it in my mind and think of all the things I want to say to them, but I just can't put it into action. So what is stopping me?
Well, this is why the wu-wei model, and this is a spiritual teaching. You have to go to the core, because you're absolutely right. They could well be disrespecting you. But you know who's disrespecting you the most? You're disrespecting the true nature of your shen, your spiritual energy. And to stop other people disrespecting you and to start to get other people to treat you in the way that you believe you should be treated, you should be treating yourself in that way first of all. I can't emphasize how important this is. If you can't be bothered to respect yourself, if you can't be bothered to look after yourself, if you can't be bothered to talk properly to yourself, if you can't be bothered to have the correct belief system, why do you believe that other people should override you and do something that you're not being bothered to do? So the first case is always about what you believe about yourself. The thoughts are the higher level, and then much deeper is what you believe. You've got to get those beliefs, what you believe, why you believe it. Is it the truth? How are you speaking from your integrity? Is it honest? What you think and believe about yourself, is that the truth? And this is why this is such an important, vital subject, what you believe and think about yourself. This is why it's a spiritual teaching.
I mean, I definitely appreciate the fact that if I allow my other people to disrespect me, if I allow other people to take advantage of me because I don't speak up and speak out, that they will carry on doing that.
Absolutely.
They'll take advantage.
Because you're telling them to.
So I can see the fact that I'm not speaking up is making the situation worse.
Creating the situation, I would say. You have created the situation because you have stepped back and created a vortex. You see, this is why this is such an important...
what you're saying is it attracts type of... I'm attracting those sort of people. I'm attracting those sorts of situations where I am taken advantage of because I'm not standing up for myself.
Go and watch a video on the law of attraction.
I'll put a link to the law of attraction video.
You see how this incorporates everything, because this is the law of attraction. So the law of attraction doesn't switch off. It works all of the time. Every moment, every second, every minute of every day, you are sending out this energy. And if you are stepping back and saying, I'm unworthy, I am a doormat, that first sentence to me, we could devote the whole video on that first sentence. When you have that belief, when that belief is in your core, that's what you've got to change. Don't change all the other stuff and try and rearrange the furniture as the Titanic is sinking. You've got to deal with the core issue. The core issue goes right back to the inner child. Okay. This is the core issue. You've got to go right back there, because you will waste your time trying to rearrange, trying to get people to treat you with more respect, trying to do this, trying to do that, trying to move jobs, trying to move partners, trying to move houses. Avoiding and procrastination, all the things we've talked about this the last two sessions, the last two videos. Procrastination, avoiding,
overthinking about what's going to happen with.
If I say that,
speak to. Okay, so let me get this straight, David. If I continue to allow people to disrespect me and not speak up for myself, I will attract more of those situations to my life. Absolutely. Now, that's not to say that aggressive people, bullying people will stop existing if I all of a sudden start speaking up for myself. But would you say that they're less likely to target me if they know that I'm more assertive, more confident, more self-assured, more able to kind of face up to them?
But even that word you use then, target, you see, they don't target you, they're attracted to you. Okay. Because you're easy pickings. You're telling them, I'm a doormat. Yeah. Why do you blame them when they come and wipe their feet on you? You're telling them to wipe your feet on you. Yeah. And that's why you have to change that core belief. And this is where I can tell you the majority of my clients misunderstand. I've spoke about it in many videos. They put the cart in front of the horse. They think, well, let me change other people. Yeah. Let me change jobs. Let me change circumstances. Let me change families.
And then it will be okay.
And then it will be okay for me. Yeah. And that doesn't work. You've got to change you. You've got to put the horse in front of the cart. You have to, and what we're talking about again, every video, self-responsibility. You have to be responsible for what you think. And what this lady said, it's no good saying, I believe I'm an emotional doormat, and say, well, I don't really mean that. That's what you're saying to yourself. This is the self-talk all the time, all the time.
That self-talk only serves to reinforce the misaligned core belief, which we'll come on to next, the kind of inauthentic core belief, which is driving your unwillingness to be authentic, to speak your truth, to live your truth. And that then, as you say, you get then stuck in a cycle of avoidance, thinking, well, if I stop seeing this person, or if I leave this partner and get into another relationship, or if I leave this job and get another boss, but you'll encounter the same life lesson in another relationship or in another job because you haven't dealt with it.
Exactly.
Okay.
I would say it goes even deeper than that. And the life lesson is you are dishonoring your own Shen. You are dishonoring your own spirit. You are dishonoring the core of who you really are by saying a word like that. And that is the life lesson. That's why you get what you call red light feelings, whatever the lady said. It's not because of what they're doing.
I want to run away. I get red light feelings and I want to run away from the situation, but I can't because I work with this person, or I'm married to this person, or...
But you'll only create another situation. You will attract another situation, whether it's another partner, whether you go to another job. How many times have I heard in my career of over 40 years when people say, I don't understand it. You know, I'm in the same situation again. I attract the same person. I've gone to one job to another and it's always the same thing. They don't understand me. They don't understand I'm sensitive. They don't give me enough time. They push me too much. It's because you're attracting them to do it. You're almost tattooing a sign and saying, come and wipe your emotional problems on me. And that's what you have to stop. This is the core of this teaching. This is the life lesson. You have to honor and respect yourself. Number one, above your boss, above your partner, above anything, you have to respect yourself, because if you do not respect yourself, how can you respect them? How can they respect you? And this is not selfish. I can see you out there rolling your eyes and going, oh my God, David, this is selfish. You mean I've got to really love and take care of myself? Yes, you have to love, honor, respect, and take care of yourself first. The energy flows through that filter, and then you can love and take care and honor other people, your partners, your family, your children, your job. Because when you walk into that place, you are walking in as your divine, spiritual awesomeness that you really are. And if you do not think you are that awesome person, right at the bottom, tell me why you're not awesome. Tell me why you're not awesome. And that's the key. And when you get that belief right, I can tell you, and people don't like when I do that, but when you get that belief right, your life changes like that. When you start to really, truly, honestly, without any little bits of doubt left in your mind, this is nonsense. How can you doubt you? When you truly believe that, your life changes immediately.
Mm-hmm. Okay, David, so you've painted a fantastic picture there. I do want to speak my truth. I do want to emit an energy of self-assurance. I do, I know I can see the importance of putting myself above all other people, because what else is there for? Because then I can give more out to others.
Absolutely.
When I'm living my truth, I can inspire others.
Absolutely.
So I can see we have to get down to the core belief, the core misunderstanding. If I was a client coming to you and saying, I've got this really real situation at work, it's affecting my performance, it's affecting my enjoyment at the job, I dread going into work, there's someone at work who is just acting inappropriately to me. I won't use the word targeting or bullying or victimizing me, but what's happening is not right. I know authentically it's not right. It's making me so angry. It's affecting my sleep, my performance at work, everything. I know there is an issue because I've always hated confrontation. I hate conflict, and I can see that if I stand up and speak up and face up to this person, I'm concerned that it's going to go wrong and it's going to create a big problem, worse than what I've got now. How do I deal with this, David? What do I do?
And so I would say I get that at least once a week, maybe twice a week, something like that. So before and we do the golden thread, which we're going to, if you don't mind role playing that, and I'll do that. But before I start that, let me just make a really important definition. I don't know why these two words are so similar. The words that I want to talk about for you to consider and meditate on is the word confronting and confrontation. Confronting and confrontation. Now, they sound very similar, and some people think they're the same. But I, in my model, see them as totally different. I want to encourage you to confront things, to confront issues, to confront us. How many times do we ask you, when you listen to these videos and you disagree with something I say, write down, thank you, David, but I disagree with this, and this is why I disagree with it. So whether you're in our community, our Facebook community, you see we have great conversations where we encourage people to have a different point of view.
And debate.
Debate, discuss. All I ever ask is, this is what I believe. This is why I believe it. You're doing me the greatest favor when you say, or anyone else in our community, I read what you said, I hear what you're saying, but I disagree with you, and this is why I disagree with you. Now that's confronting. Now, confrontation now means that you are not using your mind, your logic, your belief system, your thinking, you're using your emotions. And so now you're emotionally charged. Now the voices
more
get
aggressive,
raised.
I would say, yeah.
More aggressive,
that's the
more
word
angry,
to me,
more
like a battle.
You know, lots of people comment on us. You see our passion. You see this subject that we talk about each week here. I am really passionate about this. This is my life. I want to help you change your life. I know you can change your life. I'm very passionate about it. But I don't let that passion overwhelm me. And when you get into a confrontational mode, one person, or normally two people, their emotions are powering them and they're not thinking clearly. And so this distinction, I would just want to make sure everybody's got it clear and you've got it clear, between confronting an issue and being confrontational. When you're confrontational, you stop confronting the issue and you are now riding on the back of your emotions.
Yeah, okay.
And that is a big, big difference. One more thing just before we move on to the golden thread. On confrontation, it takes two people. Confrontation always takes two people. And so if you learn this method that we're teaching you here, you will never, ever, ever be in a confrontation ever again, because you won't let your emotions override you and pull you around. Somebody else might.
Yeah.
They might shout, scream,
yeah,
cry.
that's what I was going to say. You've got no control over the other person, but for it to be a confrontation, aggressive, adversarial, you need two kind of egos or two sets of emotions clashing with each other.
It's like that rutting steer, you know, fighting each other.
If you should confront, and all that means is basically speaking up, speaking your truth, facing up to an issue by speaking up and speaking your truth. It does not necessarily, it should not involve emotions. It should involve logic. So is confronting is in the wu-wei.
Absolutely.
In the middle zone.
Absolutely.
We talk about the swinging between extremes. So confrontation is at the extremes. One being very, very aggressive, the other extreme running away, being upset, being scared, being fearful. So we're talking about confronting, which is in that middle wu-wei zone.
Opening up really healthy debates like we do in our Facebook community, where people are quite happy to disagree and to have a different opinion or a different slant on something, because that's how we learn.
Yeah.
We only learn by making mistakes. That's the only way I learn, is by saying, David, I think you've got that slightly wrong, and this is how I see it. Well, that's great. Then I'll either agree with you or disagree with you. Both of those are fantastic results. What I'm always trying to encourage people to do is to say, this is what I believe, and this is why I believe it. It's no good saying, well, I believe this, and I go, okay, so why do you believe it? The golden thread. And you go, well, I don't know. Well, it doesn't make sense. You believe something, at least take time to get the evidence of why you believe it so you can formulate your I don't want to use the word argument because it's not an argument, your debating point, your situation, where you're coming from. This is where I'm coming from, David. I heard what you said and I disagree with you, and that's fine. Then tell me why you disagree with me. And that helps you. It also helps me because perhaps I've got a word wrong or a phrase wrong, and then I can learn off you. And this is the community that we want to build together, that we're learning off each other. No one is top dog. I'm not a guru. You're not a guru. We're in this life journey, and the journey is the destination, and we're learning together and we're growing together. And that's what wu-wei is all about. This flourishing. We want to flourish. This is the Taoist teaching. This is a fantastic life that we're living. We are so blessed. You are so blessed to wake up in the morning and to be healthy and well and to be able to address these issues. This is your blessing. This is you flourishing, and I want to encourage that.
So if I reframe how I think about the situation so that it's not confrontational, it's just confronting and speaking up and speaking my truth, and that it doesn't have to be a battle of wills.
No.
The other person can make it a battle of wills, but it's about stating my case, about actively listening to the other person. It's about not making it personal. It's about a more problem-solving approach. I can come to the table of the situation when I'm speaking to this person with all the agenda. Now, they may not, but I can.
You can.
Okay.
And you have the discipline. You have the discipline.
Yeah.
The compassionate self-discipline that even if they're ranting and raving, I always think of those cartoons when steam is coming out their ears and the eyeballs are on springs. So that's what I always think when somebody's mad with me. And clients do get mad with me. I always think of it like a cartoon character, steam coming out their ears and their eyes on springs. And I just say, okay, well, we'll leave that for a second. We'll take a breath and we'll return back to it as in a moment. Because we want to be in a confronting situation without confrontation. So let's understand why that is difficult for a lot of people that's watching this.
I can tell you right now that everything you've just said makes sense, but the thought of I can do all the prep work like we talked about, try to get my mindset in the right place, but as soon as I'm thinking about that person getting aggressive with me or laughing at me or kind of sneering at me or the whole thing going wrong, and it almost like takes me back to being a child and just wanting to run away. It gives me lots of red light feelings. So as an adult, I can think about going into the situation totally cool, calm and collected. But when I rehearse it then through in my mind as to what they do, it's like, oh no, my inner child kicks in and it all falls apart.
Thank you, Alex. And that's what I said. It's a great subject. It's a big subject. Because it also involves the inner child.
So what's going on?
So when you do the golden thread, why, you will come back down to the inner child. I would say this is the majority of the time. We've done lots of videos on inner child. If you're unsure of what we're talking about, then just go and check it out.
I'll put a link below to all the videos that we've done on the inner child.
So it's a label we're calling for that part of the mind. Now, this is very usual, typical. The child is being brought up and they want their world to be like a Disney world, like a cartoon, like a fairy story, where everybody's happy and everything works out okay and everybody smiles.
Everyone's nice to each other.
And the bluebirds come over and everybody's nice. And then they hit a situation where they either see someone arguing, their parents arguing, their family arguing, their brothers arguing with them, being bullied at school. And they then create the feeling, the red light feeling. Here's where it goes wrong. They don't yet realize, as the inner child, as we explain on all our videos, they don't realize that they are creating that feeling. Now, they could call it scared, fear, upset, avoidance, whatever word you want to call it. That's why I prefer to call it a red light feeling, because it just encapsulates all those descriptions. So now they're experiencing this overwhelming tsunami red light feeling. And please, I'm not going to underestimate this feeling. This feeling is immense. Never underestimate that feeling. For a child, this is the worst case scenario. This is like jumping off a cliff down into a deep valley. And so they don't realize that they are creating. They believe the circumstances,
the arguing, or the bullying, or whatever,
or someone being angry, or the dad being angry with them, or the dad and mum fighting, or the mum being angry with them, or the grandfather being angry with them, or the teacher being angry with them. They believe that they are creating the feeling. That feeling is coming externally into them, as I said in the last video, like a rain of arrows firing in at them. And when they think that, then what are they going to do? It's quite obvious. They're going to hide, run away, put up protection, because what they have now connected together miscorrectly, wrongly, is anger creates feeling.
Other people's anger.
Just
arguing,
anger, any anger around them, any situation, any upset, anything that's not this normal nice fluffiness, like
if there's any disharmony, basically in the outside world, I feel really bad. That disharmony is making me feel bad. So they connect that.
It comes into you.
So I now, as a child, want to avoid any situations or any people that create the disharmony, because the disharmony makes me feel bad. And that's wrong thinking. That's what you're saying.
Because the way you're doing your hands is exactly the way. The child
believes
it comes into them, and they can't do anything about it. They don't understand it's going the other way. Remember, cart before the horse. They don't understand that they are creating the feeling.
Because of what
as
they're
a
thinking.
result of the disharmony. Disharmony is a fantastic word, thank you. They see what they consider to be disharmony. It could be extreme disharmony, abuse. It could be just somebody being mad and slamming a plate on the floor. They see that disharmony. It creates a feeling. They think that that's coming inwards to them. Inbound flight, that's what they see. It's coming in. Oh my God, I've got to protect myself. I've got to run away. I've got to hide. And they put those two together. Disharmony means feelings. And what we have to do, and what the model is about, what wu-wei is about, is separating those. Disharmony is one thing. Feelings are another thing. And that's the work, really, is separating those two. And that's why, if this is you that we're talking about, it's such good news for you. It's the brilliant news for you, because this doesn't involve anyone else. Only you.
Yeah.
Because you can do this in what I would call a meditation. You maybe call critical thinking, analyzing, going, whatever you want to call it. But you've got to go down and you've got to analyze what I'm saying to you. If you disagree, so this is very important. Intellectually, you will agree with me that you are the creator of your emotions, not the victim. But does that part of your mind that we call the inner child, does he or she agree with that? Now, I would say that if what this subject is about you applies to you, your child does not agree to that. And that's the emotion education. That's the life lesson you've got to teach them.
So what you're saying then, David, is that if we, as a child, create this faulty equation that external disharmony equals my red light feelings, my painful, uncomfortable red light feelings, therefore the solution is to avoid.
Yes.
We create that faulty equation as a child, and then we carry that faulty equation with us into adulthood. So as adults, we still, as soon as we sense disharmony in a workplace situation or in a relationship, it gives us red light feelings because we're not stepping in and taking self-responsibility. So we choose to avoid. We choose not to stand up for ourselves. We choose not to speak our truth because we misguidedly believe that that is the solution.
Yeah.
So And I guess the same would apply. We've talked about situations where in childhood we've experienced people arguing or anger, and you know, the red light feelings that resulted in because of our thinking. But it also will equally apply as, I suppose, as a child, if we tried to speak up for ourselves and were ignored or made fun of or scolded, again, we create the faulty equation. Trying to speak up for myself, trying to express myself, to say what I'm thinking, equals getting ignored, being scolded, being laughed at. Therefore, the solution is to avoid, to not speak up for myself, to not express myself, to stay quiet, to hide myself away. And it's the same faulty equation. And that is then carried into adulthood.
That's really well explained, Alex, because let me just because I know you're sitting there and thinking, oh, you don't realize how bad it was for me. Once you have the equation, you can put the values in. So this could be that you were beaten badly, physically beaten. This could be that, you know, your mom was having emotional problems herself, or your dad was having emotional problems. Once you understand the equation, the values, the equation still stands up. So it doesn't matter how bad or how little, it's still the same equation.
And it runs on default. We don't even think it through now because we've been running it for so many years.
That's what this video is about. Yeah. Look, that's what I would call the belief system. The default equation, Alex has just given it another name. The default equation is there. I call that your belief. That's running. So that could be very extreme, and I've had really extreme clients, physically, emotionally, sexually abused, locked in cellars, kept in rooms for days on end, not fed. Or it could be that normally your childhood is very nice, and then all of a sudden there's a divorce. The equation still happens because the equation is the belief system. So once you understand the equation, now that's your equation, that's your belief. You can change that. And that's what we're trying to do, is to say, you are the creator of your feelings. Nobody else can make you feel any way.
But David, I'm a very sensitive person. So as a child, right from my childhood, I was so acutely aware of when, you know, if people were arguing or there was any disharmony or disagreement or bad vibes in a situation, or when people were not happy with what I was doing. It's like, I'm so acutely sensitive to that. When people say that to you, therefore, it's really difficult to break this equation. You're suggesting breaking the equation and doing things differently, but it's really hard.
I'm saying, first of all, if you are a very sensitive person, congratulations. That is your superpower. That's one of the most wonderful things that you could have. It means you can sensitively look at this equation. And ask yourself, does it work? Has it ever worked? Is it going to work in the future? Why would I keep a belief system, an equation that Alex called it, in place that's never going to work? Being sensitive is nothing to do with having a wrong belief. In fact, having a wrong belief means you can't handle your sensitivity. So if you're the type of person that can walk into a room and get a kind of a sensation of the atmosphere in the room, fantastic. That's a great skill. That's you're empathetic, you're compassionate. This is wonderful things. You should be very proud of yourself. We're not talking about that. We're talking about you being able to manage and control your own emotions, not believing that the emotion in the room is going to somehow invade you and you can't do anything about it.
That is absolutely the life lesson, because you know, I can put a link to our video that we've done on highly sensitive people, which is, you know, will be really useful for you to watch in terms of our approach to being a sensitive person.
And some people hated that, didn't they? They hated me saying, I'm glad you're a highly sensitive person. You should celebrate you're a highly sensitive person.
But it's learning to manage that beautiful quality. And so obviously in situations where there is some form of disharmony in the outside world, that is absolutely the time when you need to be on top of your game with managing your energy of sensitivity, because they're the most testing times, and they're the times where your quality of sensitivity will be revealed, can be celebrated, because you can learn to handle the testing situation or the testing person with sensitivity.
Well, that's what I don't understand, because the example that you used about somebody losing their temper and arguing, if you're a sensitive person, you should sensitively be aware that this person is having great trouble in controlling their emotions.
And that's what we don't think about, because
and you should deal with them in a sensitive way, because they need the help. They can't invade you. They can't treat you as a doormat unless you believe you're a doormat. They need your sensitivity to say whatever you're going to say. Okay, my darling, you look very upset. Take a breath. I'll go and make you a cup of tea or something. I don't know, but you've got a way of dealing with them.
I think, David, that's a really good point, because when our sensitivity is, we're not controlling it, when we're not compassionately disciplining and bringing our sensitivity into the wu-wei balance, if we let it just swing to the extremes, then we will be overly emotional, we will be crying, we'll be all consumed by the red light feelings of allowing our sensitivity to swing out of balance. However, if we bring our sensitivity in balance into the wu-wei, then we have an ability to tune in to and appreciate what's going on with that other person. We become less self-consumed and kind of overawed by our own red light emotions. And we can sensitively say, well, hold on, this person who's being aggressive, this person who is being inappropriate, this person who is just acting unprofessionally or being really self-absorbed, that's because they're out of balance. I can see the goodness in them, and I can see how I can sensitively manage this person, confront the situation with this person, but in a sensitive way. And if we can tap into that wu-wei balance of our sensitivity, then it's almost like we then tune in to the bigger picture of what's going on, rather than just being like, oh, my emotions are like overwhelming me.
But using your words of what's seeing a person out of balance, how do you think it helps if they're out of balance
and you're out
of balance?
I know. Well, it's
this is what I'm saying. If you connect your spirituality to your shen, to who you really are, to your awesomeness, they can go out of balance as much as you want, and you can just watch them go out of balance, and you can stay in your balance, and you can hold that balance. Now, this is spirituality. This is who you really are. This is the life course that you would be following now. And then this nonsense about being a doormat and wanting to run away and this and that and the other, it becomes almost a nonsense. Why would you want to run away? What are you running away from? Somebody who's out of balance. You just hold your ground and you breathe deep and you practice until this becomes your norm. Remember, that part of your mind, the inner child, loves familiarity. It loves to be knowing what it's doing. All you have to teach the child to do is to be calm, is to be truthful, is not to lie. Now, that's David, that's going to take ages. I tell you, it will take you less than 28 days. If you meditate on this, if you write it down, if you disagree, write it in the group. I think I disagree with what David says. I don't think I can do this. And then give me the reason. Give me the reason why you can't do it. That's the key. Don't just say I can't do it. Don't just say, oh, it's too difficult. Oh, don't use these words that I hear every day. Well, it's ingrained. Oh, well, it's a habit. Oh, well, they're just choices. Ingrained, habit, patterns. They're all choices you're making. Accept that they're a choice and then give the reason why you are making the choice.
Well, if I know, as we've talked about, that it's my inner child that is still stuck on this faulty equation, I hear what you say, oh, just teach the inner child to be calm. If she's still holding on, if your inner child, he or she is still holding on to the belief that everything needs to be harmonious. I don't like people arguing. I want everyone to like me. Therefore, I don't want to speak up because I know people aren't going to be happy with what I got to say. I want people to like me. Otherwise, I'm not good enough. If your inner child is stuck with those faulty beliefs, no matter how much you say, just be calm, it's not going to work. So how do I deal with that, David?
Well, we've done videos on that. You bring her into you, and that's your meditation. And we've actually done an inner child meditation. So you've got help out all around. You say, okay, my darling, so I understand that you would like the reality, the real world, to be like this fluffy little ball where everybody's happy and bunny rabbits are jumping around and nobody gets upset. Okay, you and I have to work on that because that's not reality. Now, this is what we call a life lesson. Your child needs that life lesson. Someone should have sat with her or with him when they were 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old and taught them that lesson. They never got taught that lesson. Now it's your responsibility as a mature, sensible, sensitive, caring, loving, Shen-filled adult to give yourself time and to learn it for yourself. It's like going to night school. It's like learning a language. You need to learn this. This is where we come in to help you, to give you the reading materials, but you have to learn it. This is the key. No one can parachute in and do it for you. You have to do it. And I know you can do it. I believe in you. Because this is what it is. I believe in you can do it. Now, if you haven't got the tools, I understand. If you're sitting there saying, oh, that's right, David, but I don't know what to do, then that's your job to go and learn. Quiz us. That's what we're here for. Write in the community. How do you do this, David? How do you do this, Alex? You'll see all of the community will come in and help you because we're all on the same journey. Some are a little bit, have learned that lesson. Some haven't learned this lesson. And the more we help each other, the more somebody put something in the group, and I think she had like 10, 12 big, long answers.
This is our Facebook group.
And helping her and saying, oh, yes, well, I had difficulty with that. Or someone saying, I've got the same trouble as you. Let's see what other people say. And that's the help we need.
So the life lesson, David, that we need to kind of talk through with ourselves, with our inner child, to kind of meditate on is that it's more important to speak my truth.
Absolutely.
Openly, honestly, calmly, than it is for everyone to like me, because
Absolutely.
Not everyone is going to like me.
Absolutely.
It's more important to speak my truth openly, honestly, calmly, authentically, than it is to just try and manipulate the outside world so everything's calm and harmonious.
Absolutely.
Because that's an impossible task.
It's more important to speak my truth, even if I believe my truth will upset someone else.
Yeah.
It's still more important to speak your truth. And
or that others will fall out with me.
Or others will fall out with you, or you'll lose all your friends. I hear all these kind of dramas. Well, if I speak my truth, David, all of my friends will leave me. I'll have no one and I'll be on my own. Then I've got to tell you, you've got no real friends. If you spoke your truth and all your friends leave you, then at the moment you've got no real friends. Because speaking your truth to you in this teaching that we're passing on is the most important thing. Now, how you speak your truth, what I call delivery, is very important, and that does take practice. So speaking your truth and then delivering your truth. So first of all, that's what I would always say in there's videos. Do this to yourself first.
What is clarify what your truth is.
Clarify what your truth is.
Make sure you're not swinging to the other extreme, thinking, well, I demand my right, I demand things to be this way, because actually you may be trying to chase after a situation which is unrealistic as well. So you need to almost do that first check.
That's the first step on spirituality. You're your own first client. Speak your truth to yourself, because you don't have to be so worried about delivery then, because it doesn't matter. It's just you speaking to you. Now, when you got that right and you're clear on what you believe and why you believe it, then if there's someone else that you need to address, then it's about how you deliver your truth. And that, again, is when the community can help, because you can start to put things down, and you'll see when you're writing it down, you go, oh, that doesn't sound right. Let me rewrite that. Let me rewrite that. And you're learning how to deliver your truth. But you never compromise your truth. You just learn how to deliver it better. Now, going back to what Alex says, if you nodded your head when she was saying about sensitive people, if you class yourself as a sensitive person, then why don't you deliver your truth sensitively? What could be easier than that? Speak your truth in a sensitive way. Perfect. So you speak your truth with a sensitive, calm mind, voice, body language, but it's the truth. So this is when we say sensitivity is your superpower. Sensitivity is your superpower, but you do not compromise the truth, your integrity, your honesty. You deliver it in a sensitive, caring, compassionate way, but it's still your truth. It's not diluted. It's your truth. And that's the lesson. That's the life lesson. That's what we should teach our children. When they're angry and upset, they should be able to come to you and say, Mom, I don't agree with what you've just done. Mom, something happened today at school. And they should be able to deliver it in a sensitive, calm, compassionate way. And the way you speak to them should be the same.
David, I want to talk about outcomes. Now, of speaking your truth, of standing up for yourself. When I'm kind of doing the prep work for this, I think this is where we got to be careful that the inner child doesn't rush in and say, oh, well, it's all going to end in tears. It's going to be a disaster. Everyone's going to hate me. Everyone's going to laugh at me. I'm going to lose my job, and give you all the worst case scenarios, because the inner child will give you the worst case scenarios. Yes. You have to basically sit down with yourself and say, well, okay, that's one extreme outcome or two extreme outcomes. What are the other possible outcomes here? And we talk about setting out, if that's the extreme, or you're giving me the extremes, what's the middle way? What's the neutral possible outcome?
So we've done a video on the three columns.
And this idea of having an awareness of all possible outcomes rather than just hooking on to what the inner child is telling you. So that's important, very important to be aware of, because the inner child will want to run through all the worst case scenarios with you, and you've got to compassionately self-discipline the child with that and not let that happen. But say we deal with that, we then speak our truth to the person, or speak our truth in the situation that we're faced with, sensitively, in wu-wei, etc. That person, or that it just, we don't get what we want. We don't get this kind of resolution. There is a negative fallout. Either the person is aggressive back to me, or the person goes off in a huff, or I'm still ignored, or, all the possibilities. How do I then authentically deal with that? How do I follow through?
Well, it's just that you just answered your own question. You deal with that authentically.
Yeah.
So if you go to your boss and you say, I haven't had a pay rise in 3 years, and the boss says, okay, well, that's right, I'll get onto that. And 6 weeks later, you go back to him and says, have you managed? He says, oh, I haven't had time yet. 6 weeks later, you go back and say, have you managed? I haven't had time yet. Now, you have to now consider whether you really want to work for this company, whether this company values you. And you need to be, as Alex says, take that compassionate self-discipline for yourself.
And value yourself.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That was the word I was looking for. You have to have a value for yourself. Yeah. That's why it's about looking after yourself first. Do you really want to work for this company that's giving everybody else pay rises, but not pay rising to you? They can't. They haven't got the time to look at your pay rise.
Or if there's a problem at work with an individual, you speak up, speak your truth, but nothing changes with their behaviour or how that is dealt with at work, despite you speaking up authentically.
I would think in that scenario, if you speak up authentically, it has to change. Because it won't stay the same. Because once you change the energy, we're going on to another subject now. Perhaps we could do another video. Because this is yin yang. Once you change, somebody else has to change.
Yeah.
They have to change.
There has to be an ongoing transformation and knock-on effect.
So if somebody is speaking to you wrongly or incorrectly and you change and you deal with it correctly, they will have to respond to that. Mm-hmm. So it will change. So situations will change. Alex is absolutely right. The inner child wanting to keep you into the familiar will give you all of the worst case scenarios, and you've got to look at the full picture. But as you start to make the changes, you see that the energy around you will change because the law of attraction changes.
Yeah.
The first step, without a doubt, and the easiest step, and the step that doesn't involve anybody else, is to do it for yourself. Be absolutely clear on your values, on your truth, on your integrity. So you're doing this for you. And never, ever, ever compromise yourself. Never, ever, ever let those little seeds of what you call self-doubt creep in, because those are the problems that you have to deal with. No one else is doing that for you. Mm-hmm. So this is why this can be so powerful, so effective, doesn't involve anybody else. You don't have to bring all your family and friends together and saying, right, things are going to change around here now. You don't even have to tell them. But slowly as you change, the energy changes, and it's like, how many times have you heard me dropping the pebble in the pond and the ripples go out?
Yeah. And I would imagine, the scenario we've just talked about there, speaking up and speaking your truth at work, the same applies into personal relationships. If you truly go into the situation with valuing yourself, valuing your authenticity, valuing your truth, and there is no change for the better for speaking your truth, despite you authentically trying to work with the other person on this situation, then I think that greatest self-value you now have for yourself will mean that you will be more open to the idea of moving on or making an authentic change.
Different decisions.
So if the situation is going to change, you're more motivated and you feel more calm and happy with the prospect of planning to make the change for yourself. So whether that means kind of strategically planning how you could change jobs, or strategically planning how you may need to step away from a friendship or a relationship. Your overwhelming sense of self-worth and the need and the desire to speak your truth and be authentic to yourself overrides the possibility of any practical difficulties associated with that.
But what you'll find is when you're following this path, those steps will just become very natural and organic.
Yeah. Not like a mountain to climb.
Not like a mountain. It's just one step after another. Very organic, very authentic, very truthful, very calming inside of you, because you're just following your truth. And when you follow your truth, you're on the wu-wei. And that's what wu-wei is, the wu-wei process. There'll be twists and turns, but you're on your path. And that will just seem this organic, flowing movement that going through life, living your truth, being truthful to yourself, honoring yourself, never lying to yourself, stopping this negative self-talk. Yeah. That self-talk is positive. You're not perfect. You are not perfect. You're open to learn and to grow and to move. And that's the wu-wei. And that's the life lesson again. So you see, as I said at the beginning of this video, this is a complicated subject, very important, because it incorporates many life lessons, but it always comes down to the same thing. It's about you valuing yourself. It's about you having a clear direction in life, how you want to travel. It's about you being honest, truthful, having integrity. It's about you taking self-responsibility for you. And once you do those three, clear intention, ye, truth, honesty, and integrity, and self-responsibility, your life will be on a different course, and you will be living your spiritual truth out. It will be demonstrated, and people will naturally deal with you differently.
Brilliant. Thank you, David. Well, as you say, we've covered a lot of ground there. I hope that's given you some really good insight in terms of these equations that we're carrying from childhood and how our core beliefs are affecting our ability to stand up for ourselves and speak our truth. I hope we've given you some realistic scenarios and some practical tips how you can manage these situations much more authentically and truthfully and honor yourself in the process. If you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We produce new videos every week. And if you'd like to work one-to-one with David, he does video call sessions with clients all over the world, and I will put a link below so you can learn more about that. We look forward to seeing you again next week. Bye-bye.